Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson and this is the news. On the night of December the 12th to 13th, 1981, martial law was imposed throughout Poland by a resolution of the State Council at the request of the Military Council for National Salvation. The declaration was a violation of the constitution of the time and an attempt to destroy the democratic processes that had begun with the creation of Solidarity. Shortly after the imposition of martial law, more than 10,000 Solidarity activists were interned, which paralysed the organisation's operations for some time. In addition, martial law meant a number of difficulties and restrictions for citizens, including the introduction of a curfew, multi-level surveillance, frequent searches, and the introduction of censorship in public broadcasting.
Stan wojenny to...
Martial law was not only tens of thousands of internees, but also more than 100 people murdered in the aftermath of martial law.
bitych, poniżanych.
Piotr Duda, the current chairman of the Solidarity Trade Union, stressed that to this day there is a dispute over the interpretation of the events of December 1981. All those who carried out the tasks of the Jaruzelski regime today pretend to be Democrats, and we know perfectly well who stood on what side in 1980 and 1981. There was already a president who said, "Let's bet on the future, forget history, forget the past." No, this is a shared task for us. The top commanders of martial law stand out: General Wojciech Jaruzelski, General Czesław Kiszczak, and General Florian Sawicki. The main reason for imposing martial law was the communist fear of losing power. In 1981 to 1983, Solidarity activists resisted unlawful detention in direct clashes with officers of the repressive apparatus. Strikes broke out across the country, including the Wujek mine in Katowice, the Gdansk shipyard, and the Lenin steelworks in Krakow. The regime suppressed them in a brutal manner, engaging units of the security service, the civic militia, as well as ZOMO in the protests. Unfortunately, the exact number of victims in this tumultuous period is difficult to determine. People were killed covertly and secretly. The entire communist leadership of the time was responsible for this, including Czesław Kiszczak, who led the repression of priests. Although 41 years have passed since the outbreak of martial law, according to experts, the previous system continues to influence the justice system in Poland. Polish courts continue to rule on judges and prosecute prosecutors who took part in the war against the Polish nation in the 1980s. Prosecutors of the branch commissions for the prosecution of crimes against the Polish nation have filed 38 motions with the Supreme Court. The motions are expected to lead to a resolution before the Supreme Court that 25 judges and 5 prosecutors may be held accountable. By 1981, the Solidarity movement was already so strong that it could not be stopped using conventional political methods. General Wojciech Jaruzelski, by taking the army to the streets, proved that the communists were becoming increasingly impotent, which heralded the imminent collapse of their rule in Poland. The result of the long-standing domination of the communist system in Poland was that the apparatus of power became saturated with Russian agents. We must remember that the post-communists came to power again in 1993. De facto, they never lost this power, thanks, among other things, to Donald Tusk, the famous coup d'etat and the fall of Jan Olszewski's government, which enabled them to return to power. Had it not been for that, Kwasniewski's presidency would certainly not have happened. In the evening, President Andrzej Duda, under the Pope's cross at Marshal Pilsudski Square in Warsaw, will light the light of freedom. Andrzej Duda, as he does every year, will honour the memory of those who defied the regime of the time and stood up for justice and freedom. Day 293 of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Yesterday, a strategically important bridge in the southern Ukraine connecting the Russian-occupied city of Melitopol with the nearby town of Kostiantynivka was damaged. The crossing was used by Russians to transport troops and military equipment. We have to be aware that Russia has not abandoned this tactic of terror. Any absence of mass missile strikes simply means that the enemy is readying new attacks. And there could be strikes at any time. Although it is evident that even without light, we know well where to shoot and what to liberate, Russia is still counting on blackouts. This is the terrorists' last hope. And this is one of the most important areas of our communication with partners. Among other things, we must gather the maximum global capabilities to overcome the Russian mine terror as soon as possible. And I thank once again all our partners who help. I thank all our heroic workers of the State Emergency Service, our police and the military who carry out demining, Every defused Russian bomb, every projectile made safe, every detected and defused tripwire mine is the saved life of our people.
Розтяжка – це врятовані життя наших людей.
The German and Polish defence ministers are in discussions over how German Patriot anti-aircraft defence systems can be deployed in Poland, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz said on Monday. Germany has offered Poland the use of the Patriot system after a missile strike in Poland close to the Ukrainian border killed 2 on the 15th of November. The missile appeared to have been fired accidentally by Ukraine's air defences rather than to have been a Russian strike, NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg said at the time. Scholz said the design of the system would be similar to the systems already installed by the United States and the United Kingdom.
Ich bin sehr froh, dass unser Vorschlag
I'm very glad that the proposal we made to use Patriot surface-to-air missile systems to ensure and improve Polish security has been agreed on. As you know, we are now exploring in concrete terms how this can be implemented. The two defence ministries are cooperating very closely on this. I'm also very grateful to German Defence Minister Lambrecht for her very practical, continuous efforts to bring this forward. And the design will be similar or the same as what is being organised in terms of the equivalent systems already installed by the United States and the United Kingdom.
genauso sein, wie das sich im Hinblick auf die schon
Olaf Scholz also discussed plans of the G7 to establish a climate club.
beim Gipfel in Elmau.
At the G7 summit in Elmau, we as the G7 had already committed ourselves to the climate club. Since then, we have continued to work intensively on the concept of this open, cooperative international club. Today, I can say that with the adoption of the terms of reference, in a sense the statutes, we are now launching the climate club. If we are realistic, we know that the world will grow to 10 billion inhabitants and that there will be a lot of very influential states in this world, where it is important for us in Europe, in the north of America, in Japan, that we find a way to cooperate closely with each other. And this has been achieved, has also been taken very seriously, and has been underlined by various talks that I and others have had. During today's plenary session in Strasbourg, the European Parliament removed Eva Kaili from her position as Vice President. The Greek woman is suspected of corruption and money laundering. In her apartment, investigators found more than €1 million in cash and expensive gifts from Qatari sheikhs.
Earlier today, European Parliament President Roberta Metsola said that the Parliament would leave no stone unturned in its effort to tackle corruption.
Whether it is tightening of our rules, whether it is inquiring further, whether it is looking at the influence of certain third countries, we will not stop and leave no stone unturned. I cannot predict where this will go, but what I can say, I fear, and this is in a general point of view after our initial findings, is that the story will not stop here. There will be no impunity, there will be no sweeping under the carpet. Our internal investigation will look at what has happened and how our systems can be made more watertight. Our house is on the side of the law.
Belgium's federal prosecutor released a still photograph of cash found during a series of police raids at various locations, including parliament offices and 19 homes. A source close to the investigation said they discovered around €1.5 million, some of it stashed in a suitcase in a hotel room. Police led the searches over suspicion that EU officials accepted bribes from Qatar and may have used the money to buy influence within the European Parliament. Belgian prosecutors charged Greek MEP Eva Kaili and 3 Italians at the weekend of taking part in a criminal organization, money laundering, and corruption. Kaili, who is in police detention, was one of 14 vice presidents in the parliament. The Gulf state and Kaili have denied any wrongdoing. Iracy Garcia Perez, the chairperson of the Socialist Parliamentary Group to which Kaili belongs, told a news conference it would conduct an internal investigation and remove from the position of responsibility those allegedly involved.
That's the news. Thank you for watching. Stay with the weather, Poland Daily Business, and more programmes. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.